Welcome to another edition of the Hobbitcast. I'm your host, Ben McDonald, and today we're going to be having another keto diet fireside chat. Today, I've got my lovely co-host, Karen, with us. Karen, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you this fine evening, Ben?
I think I'm cooler than you are. I understand that despite your northernly location, it might be a little warm up there.
It's getting better. We're on the tail end of a heat wave. So yesterday was awful, but today I think we've got a storm coming through. So I'll survive. I won't melt. I promise.
Yeah, don't you guys have permafrost up there?
I think that's a little further north there, where the caribou are. Yeah.
The caribou. Reindeer? Is that what you're talking about? Reindeer?
Yeah, reindeer.
Well, Karen, today we're going to take on, boy, I just realized that slide. It says Hobbitcast number 3, but it's really number 5. So today we're going to take on stalls. It's going to be fun.
Stalls.
This comes up every now and again on the Facebook boards, doesn't it?
It does. The dreaded stall. Dun, dun, dun.
So you're going along, dieting like a pro, eating your low-carb diet, watching those weight just fly off 2 pounds a week like a champ.
Just melts off that first month.
And super easy that first month.
Exactly.
And then what happens?
And then it slows down, and for a lot of people, all of a sudden you get to 2, 3, 4 weeks and no movement on the scale. You're stuck. But you've been doing everything the same that you were doing before, but all of a sudden you're not losing that 2 pounds a week.
But nothing's changed, Karen.
Yeah, that's usually what part of the problem is.
You mean you might be going through some changes during the diet? It's not steady state.
It really isn't linear. I gotta tell ya, my little weight graph is all over the place. It's not just a steady slide down to goal weight.
Yeah. So I don't know about you. I get a lot of PMs. People are really excited to talk to me and get my advice about their stall because they feel like they've done everything right.
Yes.
You know, I'm doing the good work here, and yet here we are with a stalled out weight loss journey. So when I get that message from somebody, there's a few themes that I wanted to talk about. And I'll see if you've got anything you want to slap on here.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about dairy. Dairy never helps, and it crushes people. So many people, and that sucks because it's awesome. I like a lot of different dairy products. I eat a lot of them, and if I had to cut them out, it would make me very sad.
I know.
The other thing that we find, I say we because everybody does this. After about a month, you're a keto pro, right? You know what's up. Who needs to measure that peanut butter? You know what's going on. I know what 2 tablespoons looks like. I just slap it right on down. No problem.
I've personally never had any issues with peanut butter, but I could see where you might get a little bit of trouble with that, Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, personally, huh?
Not personally,
though. No, there's never been a peanut butter trouble.
Yeah. So measuring can sometimes be an issue.
Measuring can be an issue, and of course, exercise and sleep. And I think that one's going to be the controversial topic that people will argue with me about later.
I love talking about those. Sleep is wonderful.
I'm telling you, this is the quiet killer of diet progression if you get bad sleep. So I have some thoughts on it. I know you have some thoughts on it. We'll dig into that pretty good. So there we go. All right. So let's talk about dairy. Let's talk about what's going on with this. It's really simple. If you are stalled, the first thing that you need to take a real hard look at is how much dairy you are eating. Dairy has sugar in it. That's why it's delicious. It's got. That's why you're not
It's just
allowed to.
it has sugar. It's melty. It's gooey. It's
so
just
delicious.
I can't say enough about dairy.
Exactly. It's delightful. However, it is a very common problem for people to be sensitive to dairy. So let me back up just a little bit and go. One of the more common reasons for people to stall is because they have some sort of food sensitivity that they either aren't aware of or isn't severe enough to be classified as an allergy, but does in fact cause some sort of allergic or hystemic reaction, or
there could be inflammation.
Yeah, otherwise some sort of inflammation, especially folks that have eaten junk for a long time have weird gut microbiomes, and you start starving them out by not eating the Doritos, and a month later all those little bugs are starting to die off and cause real problems down there. So the only thing that's left is all this inflammation as these things are dying off, and then you're eating dairy, which is kind of inflammatory. It just exacerbates the problem. So, Karen, what do you tell people when they first come to you and you have a suspicion that you might have some dairy issues?
That's usually the first thing that I recommend if somebody says, look at, the scale hasn't moved for 3 weeks. And I've reevaluated my macros. I'm not overeating. The first thing that I like to look at is exactly how much cheese are you eating? Because it is a source of fat. So a lot of people do enjoy that in their ketogenic diet because they get some fats and it's tasty. I just often what happens when I recommend just cut out the dairy and see what happens is that, oh no, I can't do that. All my food has dairy in it. It's just that would be too hard. So last July, June, sorry, we're in July now. Last June, I just decided I wasn't going to eat dairy. I was going to cut it out. I had installed, but I just wanted to prove that it could be done. So I was determined to say no. Anyone can cut out dairy. And you know what? I did. And my weight just flew off immediately once I got rid of it. So I can definitely see it helping somebody break out of that stall if they're really stuck. It's a calorie bomb to me. I don't make fat bombs at home, but dairy is a fat bomb.
Oh, sure. Nice big wedge of that with the Dublinger cheese from Kerrygold. Oh, so good.
Yeah, so it definitely cheese for me, and the heavy whipping cream, if I ever use that, is something that I always measure. Otherwise, it's just one of those things that it's too easy to eat more than you're thinking you are. It's too easy to just grab out of the fridge and just eat a chunk of cheese.
Okay, so in your dairy-free journey,
yes,
let's talk about heavy whipping cream. What did you use it for, and how did you work around the fact that you didn't have it anymore?
The heavy whipping cream I would sometimes use in my coffee. I like to have a little bit of decaf after dinner.
Sure.
And I would put it in there. My morning coffees they've always been black. But I would have it there. It would be sort of like a dessert. I'd have a little sweetener and a little heavy whipping cream in my coffee. And that was my dessert after my chicken and green beans and baby spinach.
Okay.
So that's what I would have it in. Sometimes I will use a little bit of almond milk, but most of the time I just have it black.
So your approach was mostly an abstinence-based approach to this rather than substitution.
Yeah, you know, if you can't handle your coffee black, then there are lots of really yummy substitutes. I would get some of the commercially prepared cashew milk, and that's nice and smooth in a coffee. I find the almond milk, it has a little texture for coffee. But to me, it's better just to find something else that I like instead of trying to find a poor substitute for something that I really love, like cheese or heavy whipping cream.
But that brings up a point that I want to make that's real clear. Listen, you screwballs, coffee is a flavor. Stop trying to mix fancy coffee.
I'm having my decaf right now. It's delicious.
See?
And it's
That's
black.
right. If you don't like coffee black, you don't like coffee. Go get you some Nature's Celestial Seasonings, Raspberry Zinger. Enjoy you a nice, delicious, fruity tea. Because if you don't like coffee, stop drinking it.
Yeah.
It's such an important point. Now, my wife is very sensitive to dairy as well, and she is actually on a relatively low dairy intake.
Yeah.
So for her, we actually make fresh almond milk every single day. So this is our routine. As we're getting ready to head upstairs for bed, we take 10 almonds and we put them in a little tumbler, like a coffee cup, and just cover them with water. So that it just sits on the counter all night long, soaking away. Now in the morning, I come down, I put 2 cups of water into our regular blender, not a Blend Tech, not one of those fancy, $400 blenders. Talk about a $35 Sunbeam special here. Yeah. Because the almonds have soaked all night, they're nice and soft. So you throw the almonds, a little bit of salt, and 2 cups of water into that blender, and you just turn it on and let it run for 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and that will make very good almond milk. If you want it to be exactly like what you buy in the store, you sprinkle like a 1/16 of a teaspoon of xanthan gum in there, and that will tighten it up a little bit and give it that slick, creamy feeling that you're used to drinking from store almond milk. It's actually a chemical called carrageenan, which is not very good for you. So if you want to go for the commercial milk, go ahead and do so. Certainly a low calorie way of going is 35 calories a cup or something like that when you buy it from the store.
It's trace. Now, I do get a carrageenan free almond milk from Costco.
No, see, there you go.
When you get the commercially prepared ones, you can look for that. It does exist.
It's available. So, all I do is I go to Costco, I buy the 3-pound bag of almonds. I don't think about it too much. And then we just 10 almonds at a time. Now, if you're not trying to lose weight, you can use cashews, which have a little bit more carbs and a lot more calories, but makes a much more delicious milk. So choose as you feel led, but I recommend the almonds. If you do it as I described, it's about 80 calories and 2 carbs for the 2 cups. So it's very minimal amount. And, we make lattes out of it. So it's 2 cups and I get a cup and she gets a cup and we kind of ration it through the day. I like to have a cup of black coffee and then I'll make a latte at some point during the day and really water that thing down. And she really prefers having her coffee watered down to the point where it's almond milk with a little coffee. So she goes that route. But that's if you're someone that really likes to pour on the cream or the half and half, that's the way to do it without getting too many calories or too many carbs.
Yeah.
How about cheese, Karen? What'd you do about that?
I just didn't have it. There's no substitution for cheese. There's nothing on this earth that is like cheese. I don't care. You can show all that the nutritional yeast stuff. No, don't put that anywhere near me. That is not cheese. That is penance. But no, I just didn't have it. All I did was, for my fats, I just had a little bit of olive oil, in my salad and cooked with a little bit of coconut oil. And I just stuck to meat and vegetables without any fancy cheese stuff going on.
Now listen here. I'm not going to stand for you disparaging nutritional yeast. It's not acceptable. And let me tell you, here's what you haven't tried yet.
All right.
You need to make broccoli cheese soup. using nutritional yeast as
No.
a better ghee substitute. No. That if you, I have done this many times. My wife has no idea that I even have nutritional yeast hidden in the cabinet up there.
Oh boy.
And she compliments me all the time on what a good soup I make. And she does not know that for the past several months, she has not had broccoli cheddar soup. It's been broccoli yeast soup.
Oh.
So just let me tell you, you can slide it right in there. And as long as they don't know, you're fine.
All right.
So it's actually a good way of thickening up the soup too. Even if you're not on a no dairy diet, you throw a little bit in there. It's got a few carbs, but it's a different kind of carb. It's not sugar, so it's a whole different thing. But they're don't just disparage it outright, okay?
No.
All right.
I will know. There's no way. If I'm making the soup, there is no way I will not know that it's in there.
See, that's the thing. You gotta have somebody else do it for you.
All right.
Okay, so we've talked about dairy. We've talked about no cheese. We've talked about no milks, creams, kind of stuff. I mean, you shouldn't be drinking milk anyways, but some of the other dairy products, yogurt, butter, cottage cheese. What are your thoughts on those?
Butter, I really don't have too much of an issue with that. I mean, particularly if it's clarified. A lot of people, if they want to avoid some of the inflammation that can sometimes come along with dairy, they will use ghee.
Yes.
Which is clarified butter. It doesn't, all the solids are out of it. It's just the oil, and it's quite tasty.
And you know that that's true because it doesn't have to be refrigerated. You can just leave it in a cabinet and it's fine.
That's true. Yeah. Now you know a lot more about yogurt than I do. I've never really liked it that much to begin with. So I've never had it. Cottage cheese to me is an ingredient that goes in something. It's not something that I would eat. And
how dare you?
Just skipped all those recipes.
How did you miss all the diets where you would put a scoop of cottage cheese on a lettuce leaf and that was lunch?
I would just eat the lettuce leaf.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So my thought on yogurt, don't.
Yeah.
It's out. No, just can't get there from here. I don't recommend it for anybody eating a ketogenic diet. I don't trust there's no such thing as commercial sugar, low carb yogurt. It just doesn't exist. Anything that doesn't taste like really terrible sour cream has a lot of sugar in it. And that's what I'm trying to say is people are like, oh, no, I get this plain organic stone field stuff. Like, well, can you eat it plain? Oh yeah, it's not too bad. What do you think about eating a big spoonful of sour cream? Oh, that's terrible. Well, there you go. Because sour cream and yogurt are exactly the same thing. So if you can eat your yogurt, then that's no good. Yeah. So there are some interesting things that I have not yet experimented with, but I have some dreams this summer. I bought one of these yogurt makers you can get on like Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's like a little thing. You pour the little stuff in there. It is said that a long ferment yogurt, which is a 24-hour ferment as opposed to the 8 to 12 hours that you would normally use, will actually suck so much sugar out of those things that it actually is a low carb product. But
interesting.
But the problem is it tastes like sour cream. So I don't know what you do with it then. Maybe, think about what would happen if you dumped a bunch of stevia into sour cream. It would not taste good. That's not it. It's going to be bitter, sour, and sweet. And those are, that's just like a bad cheesecake that was left out in the sun. So I don't know, but I say no. And definitely
sounds so delightful.
Oh, I know, right? I'm so excited. So my thought is no on everything but butter, especially ghee, which I find to be the top tier of all of these things.
It's good stuff. If you haven't tried it, you should.
Yeah, and if you can't find it, which you can on Amazon, so there's no excuses, but if you can't, you can clarify your own butter just by it, go look on the internet. It's really simple. You just slap a pound of butter into a pot with water in it, and you just boil it, and then all the stuff floats to the surface. You skim off all the milk solids, get rid of all the stuff, and then the oil is left. You siphon off the water, and you're done and done. I mean, it's really, if chefs do it all the time, you know, when you go to a lobster joint, you get the clarified butter. They're not buying that in a 5-gallon drum. They're just taking butter and sucking off the milk solids. So it's no big deal. It's really easy to make, and it's really easy to buy. So,
yes,
this kind of tees into one of my favorite pet peeves, which is nutrient density.
Yeah.
I do not like when people talk about eating keto and all they're doing is eating eggs, bacon, cheese, and steak. And you go, well, where's the vegetables? Where's all the variety, the diversity, and the nutrients in the food?
Show me the kale.
Yeah, where's all of these things? Where's your broccoli? I would love to audit some of these people's grocery carts because I just believe they're doing it wrong. And
we've seen the pics. So some people say, you know, it came back from the grocery store and it was all dairy and meat, you know, and like one sad little bag of Dole prepared salad, looking all lonely.
Absolutely. I eat a salad every day. Usually when we're doing stuff like I'll get like 4 pounds of ground beef. We cook it up. We eat, you know, a couple of half-pound burgers for dinner. I make some of it into like a taco meat, and we have taco salads the next few days. It's perfect.
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions. It's come up a few times in the group asking, what should I cook? You know, it's hot out. I don't want to cook. What can I make that's keto that doesn't require me dying in my kitchen from heat? And I'm thinking, where is your salad? Where is it?
Exactly. You are on a diet that lets you eat blue cheese by the cupful. Why are you not taking advantage of that?
Exactly. Like real bacon bits, people, you could put those on a salad. It doesn't have to be just with eggs.
Yes. So I'm a big fan of nutrient density. You'll see me periodically post these pictures of like all these plates, and they're mostly vegetables. Just today I posted that most of my friends think I'm a vegetarian who begrudgingly accepts a little meat, because when you looked at my plate, it would be by volume 80% vegetables and 20% meat, and it's
very true.
That's what works real good. And if you're eating the meatitarian diet, yes, that's ketogenic, but over the long run, we'll see. I don't know how good for you it is to just eat steak, and with a little cheese and a little steak. So, this also brings me to my second pet peeve, and I think this is more a function of people's time. So many folks are just so busy; they don't have time to make food. I luckily I work from home. I have a wife who can help me cook. We prep and cook normal food. But when I go to the grocery store, I go to the vegetables, the fresh vegetables. I load up. I stay on the outside of the store. I go swinging around to the meat counter. I hit the dairy stuff, and then I'm out of there. Like there's nothing in a bag or a box that comes home from the grocery store. I'm buying real food. It's not packaged food. It's not pre-processed. You know, the closest I get to processed food are things like frozen vegetables, which are nice to have. And there's nothing wrong with, hey, some of those frozen vegetables are better than the fresh. I got to tell you. And like green beans, when the green beans aren't in season and they're coming in from Argentina on a slow boat,
way better frozen.
Oh, they're way better frozen.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that fresh, real food. And this is kind of leads right into the next thing, which is processed food has sneaky carbs in it.
They do carb fractions. I don't know if it's the same in the States, if they have, our nutritional labeling laws are slightly different, but there are lots of foods that I have found here where you have the total carbs, but the math doesn't make any sense when you start adding up other things. They have less total carbs than they do sugar.
Hmm.
So it's fractions. They're playing with the numbers.
Oh,
They
no,
can add
that's
up after a
interesting.
while. Yeah.
We definitely have the rounding ability, but the simplification, because we don't. So, for those of you listening in Canada and in most of Europe, they actually, when you're looking at a label, you're looking at net carbs, not total carbs. They
But that is in
pre-subtract
Europe.
everything.
In Canada we're the same as the States, but in Europe it's different.
Yeah, so when you start having these pre-calculated things, there's a lot of little games that can be played. What happens that we see in the U.S., because of the way they calculate, the FDA regulates how you make those calculations. It's very difficult to play the fraction game because you only get to have one fraction, so you can only round half a tick. Like you couldn't round like 5 times in. You can only do once.
Mm-hmm.
So at most, it's going to be off by 1 gram. But still, I mean, that can add up across 4 portions or whatever for sure. So sneaky carbs come in lots of forms. They sneak them in. They put in just enough sugar to round down, like Karen was saying.
Mm-hmm.
They come in the form of crazy like coatings and additives. And there's a post I like making sometimes. It's the 50 names of sugar.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things on that list that I guarantee you did not know was a name for sugar.
Yeah.
So you start seeing these things and you go, well, those don't really, that's not sugar. It's not that big of a deal. Why would you worry about it? But you start seeing things like barley malt and you go, well, that doesn't sound like sugar. How could that be a problem? But oh yeah, that's straight up and down sugar. And maltodextrin, is that a sugar? Yeah, that's in chicken broth. That's the number 1 ingredient in Weiler's chicken broth is maltodextrin. It's sugar.
Yeah.
So as soon as you start buying that stuff, you are sneaking them in. And the way that they do those, they do the portions very carefully calculated so that it says 0 carbs, but it's not. It's 0.499999 carbs.
Yep.
So that they can round down to 0.
With the pre-shredded cheese. Shred your own cheese. Don't buy the pre-shredded cheese. They coat that with starch.
Do
to stop it from sticking to each other. Mm-hmm. So you have a big lump of cheese at the bottom of the bag.
That's right.
Shred your own cheese.
Right. And if you have to get shredded cheese, get the big shreds, not the little shreds, because then you're getting more cheese and less sawdust.
Yes.
Because that's what it is. It's a cellulose derived from sawdust byproduct.
It's a food-like substance.
Yes.
Yeah, with the nutrient density too. Dairy is one thing. I find nuts is another.
Yeah, that's another good one that people have trouble with. You wouldn't think that a cashew could cause so much trouble, but it does.
It's just because they are such a calorie bomb. You do have to weigh them, and sometimes if they're just too tempting, you got to rule them out.
Yeah, and every nut has a different carb count too. Things like peanuts have a lot more carbs than almonds do, for instance. Yeah. And, hazelnuts are pretty good. So what do you think the best nuts are, based on the stuff that you've looked at so far?
I stick to walnuts, almonds, and pecans.
Have you ever looked at the Brazil nut?
I don't like them.
Oh, but how dare
they're
you.
Wonderful. I know Scott would be so upset with me.
Oh.
But I like them. You know what? I have to be craving them. I don't like them unless I'm craving them, and I do crave them from time to time, and I think it's a magnesium thing that I really want them then.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, and they have to be really fresh. I've had a bad Brazil nut before, and I think it's just sticking with me.
Oh, no.
But they are a wonderful source of magnesium. I would say go for it.
So one of the things that happens when we start talking a little bit about some of these processed products.
Yeah.
There are these oils that are commercially used that people are sensitive to. Just like we were talking about, it's not that dairy is necessarily going to knock you out of ketosis.
No.
But it knocks you into a state of inflammation and general malaise that your body just kind of is rebelling against. Well, there are some oils that one of the worst ones is the commercial grade soybean oils are terrible.
And they put like wonderful food in it. They put, your sardines. It's in soybean oil.
Yep.
Or speaking of packaged things, I'm not in love with, mushing up my garlic cloves. But if you try to buy them, pre-minced, oftentimes they're putting it in that soybean oil.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that it sneaks in there as being something that isn't directly a carb, but it's an inflammatory agent that, hey, maybe you're someone that can, drink soybean oil by the gallon and no problem. Okay, good on you. We're troubleshooting here. We're trying to figure out why you're stalled. Yep. So when you say I'm stalled, I say, what is causing the inflammation? Yeah. Because that could be one of the pieces of the puzzle is, are you eating inflammatory things? And nuts will kill you, because if you go look at if you buy your nuts in a can, read the back of that can. You will freak out at what is in there and stuff. And almost always soybean oil.
Yeah, well, it keeps it shelf stable. Like I was talking about my bad Brazil nuts. It wasn't in that oil, and it stops them from going rancid, because nobody wants to eat a rancid nut.
All right. So anything else you want to talk about with specific food sensitivity stuff before we move on to the next topic?
Oh, that is another thing with talking about dairy and nuts. Oftentimes, a lot of the ketofied treats and baking, that's using a lot of nuts and a lot of fats and a lot of dairy to try to mimic the carb and sugar based ingredients that we normally use for those things.
You mean when you make a pizza out of cheese and nuts? That has a lot of dairy and nuts in it?
I threw a picture of one of those cheese and nut pizzas that I made up on my personal Facebook wall, and my friends are asking me, "Oh, that looks great, what's in that?" And I had to put up a warning. Okay, this makes a small pizza with 6 slices. Each slice, just for the crust, is over 200 calories. So just know this before you eat a whole fathead pizza.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But you just, with those things, especially with induction or with stalls, I ask people just avoid that as much as possible. For me, as I go along, it's usually a weekly thing where I will make something like a fathead pizza or, a mug muffin, or I'll make my son some crackers or something like that. That's a ketofied treat.
Yeah. So this is a great time to talk about our good friend Scott's cookbook. This is exactly what you should not do.
He can, though. He will not stall with this stuff. He's a remarkable man.
Yes, he is. If you are cooking stuff off of Hobbit.com and you are stalled, that is one of the first things that I'm going to tell you to stop doing.
Yeah. And
it's sad, but it's because these mimic foods require, everything from inulin, the chicory root stuff, oat fibers, nut ground meals, the almond, the coconut. You start slapping all this stuff in there, and again, for some people, they can have fathead pizza all day long and all the mug muffins that you could stack to the ceiling and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not everybody. And if you're listening to this podcast taking notes, it's because you're not getting the results you want. And we are on a witch hunt. We are looking for suspects. Everybody is guilty until proven innocent.
And we'll find it.
That's right. And anything that comes out of the Hobbit's kitchen is absolutely guilty. All right. So, with that said, let's move on to measurement.
Yeah, and I really think that this is crucial. I know it is not a sexy topic.
No.
Measuring your food. I hear it nearly every day on the Facebook group. Measuring, no, I don't want to do that. This is a lifestyle and I don't want to measure. But if you're like me and you still have 90 pounds to lose, then it is something that you're going to have to do for most of your foods, most of the time.
Let's assume right now that your eyeballs are a very poor instrument of measurement. That is just an assumption that you need to make, especially if you are stalled.
Yeah. Yeah, it is surprising. You think sometimes I'd like to just remeasure things that I've stopped, and it's seldom accurate.
In my own journey, what I've found is my ability to estimate my protein is actually really good. I am completely untrustworthy when it comes to calories or fat. Okay. Completely.
I'm good with the fat, but with the protein, I don't know. I guess I really like ribeye. So that can trip me up a little.
There you go. So when we're talking about macros, in previous podcasts, I think it's podcast number 1, we kind of went in depth on macros. So go back and listen to that if you want detail. When we talk about hitting your macros, we say, protein is a goal, fat is a limit, carbs are a limit. You go, all right, well, there comes a point where if you are getting real sloppy with your macros, nobody is expecting you to hit macros with ultra precision. I mean, come on. If your calories are 1352 and you're at 1340, you don't need to go find a quarter of an almond to hit your macro. Hold on. Well, I have to slice this almond into 4 pieces. Perhaps that's not necessary, but one of the things that will trip you up is protein, and especially for the women folk.
It's very true.
The women folk are sensitive to protein. I don't know why. I don't know what about the biology it is, but probably one of the biggest points of contention between our macros and the macros that other groups tend to favor is the protein content.
Yeah.
And I think a big piece of that is because Scott and I had definitely done a lot of research and talked to thousands of people. And we have a point of view that when it comes to protein, there is no doubt that if you give a woman too much protein, she can't lose weight. And it doesn't matter who you are, how much activity you are. That is just an unfortunate reality. So when we're giving out macros for most women, they're going to get between 60 and 90 grams, and it's usually going to be somewhere in there. And if you're somebody that's pounding chicken wings and ribeyes and, all those delicious big protein loads, especially if you're someone that does a lot of chicken breasts where protein can really sneak up on you.
Yeah.
That protein, it does convert to glucose somewhat. I'm not going to go down a science rabbit hole and spare you guys all this, but just know that if you eat too much protein, you get a little sugar out of it. It's not a lot, it's a little bit, but it can be enough to cause you to stall because it kicks off the insulin response that you don't think that you're getting because you're not eating carbs, but you are eating too much protein, and that's causing your body to react in a certain way. My rule of thumb, if you're getting more than 30 or 40 grams of protein in a meal, you need to make a real conscious decision about what you're trying to accomplish. I think for males, it's a little bit different, but if you're stalled out and you're eating, 40 grams of protein and you're having 4 eggs and side of bacon for breakfast, guess what? That's probably too much protein in that meal, and it is insulinogenic. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So be careful and be suspect of that being something to go after. Get tight on your macro and hit it. Don't go too much under, and definitely don't go over if you're stalled as one of your troubleshooting techniques. I also just, put in a quick comment. It should be obvious, but if you're going over on calories, that's going to stall you too, especially if you got them from us. It's got a 20% deficit built into it. And, it's not a perfect science here. We're taking your age, height, and weight and shaking a Rubik's Cube and coming up with a number. It's not exactly a DEXA scan and a metabolic pod where we're getting your exact calorie intake. It's gonna have some wiggle room. It might be off 5-10%. So if you're, if you're overeating by 10% on a regular basis and you're stalled out, well, maybe your macros are a little tighter than you thought, and you're being a little sloppy with your behavior, and those two things add up to you not losing weight, because we're not trying to put you on a starvation diet. We're just
because undereating can cause people to stall too.
Well,
We've seen it happen.
That's a great point. Scott actually wrote a fantastic blog article about what'll happen if these people that drop down to really low calories. And we talked about this in one of the fasting discussions as well. Yeah. If your calories are too low, you definitely will go into this weird, starvation mode, whatever you want to call it, where your body is just like, I'm totally freaking out right now and I don't know what to do.
I'm going to hang on to every ounce of fat I can.
You start getting those weird metabolic adaptations. You get cold in the middle of summer. You get the brittle nails, the hair falling out. That's all metabolic adaptations where your body's just like, all right, I'm a downshift. We're going to go slow here for a few minutes.
Yeah.
All right. So, Karen, are there any good excuses for not measuring?
You know what? When it comes to measuring, I'd say the more measuring, the better. I mean, especially if you're stalled or if you're dealing with a metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, you need to know what you're eating. And it's only going to help you, if you haven't stalled yet, to have a record of what you've been doing. That way you can troubleshoot it after. The excuses, we do have... Sometimes people will ask for their macros, and for whatever reason, they choose not to weigh and measure and log. Often I hear the excuse, well, that just isn't reasonable. That isn't a reasonable way for me to live my life. And it does bother me because I really want to see the people succeed. And if they're not succeeding, I can point a finger straight back to the lack of measuring and the lack of logging. So I don't want to hear that excuse and that rationalization that it's some sort of philosophy, when really it's just setting yourself up for failure and trying to make it okay somehow. But we say it with love. It's not judgment. It's not criticism. It's just a passion to see people succeed in this.
I feel the same way. Everyone has a point of view that you can try and make a diet a lifestyle, and I don't want it to be invasive and da-da-da-da. Hey, if that works for you, great. Yeah. Have a blast. We're talking about being stalled. We're talking about not getting the results that you expected. And if you're at the table with your hand raised going, I'm stalled and I'm not getting the results that everybody else is getting, what's wrong? This is absolutely culprit number one for what you have failed to do. especially on month 2. I'm telling you, this is the rookie mistake, man. People they go, oh, I know, I got my shopping list down. I've got, I've kind of kicked the sugar. There's no sugar in my cabinets. I can do no wrong. And the measurement starts getting a little sloppy. The portions start getting a little bigger. The food diaries fall to the wayside. And that's when the stall happens.
Yeah.
So I've seen it 100 times. So when you're troubleshooting, that's what you got to do.
It's really handy to have that record. It really is.
Well, that brings us to point number 3, which is your food log should be trustworthy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How many PMs have you gotten where it's like, well, let me see your food log. Well, it's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Have you been following your macros faithfully? Let me see your food log. Oh, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm. It only goes back to Tuesday because I changed.
Yeah.
There's a suspicious 3-week gap in your food diary. What's happening here?
It really is key. This way you know exactly what you're going to have that day, or that you've already had. Some people log before, some people log after. I'm not going to argue one way or the other which way you should do that. It's whatever works for you.
Sure.
But it keeps you honest with yourself,
mm-hmm.
as long as you're measuring. If you're just guessing and then writing it down the food log, that's not going to work.
No.
But also, once you get, 3-4 months into this and you actually have a stall, like a nasty 4-week-long stall where you've been losing and gaining the same 4 pounds, that's a tool for you and for one of the admins to go through and figure out exactly what the problem may be.
Mm-hmm. I use these food blogs as the number one troubleshooting tool. Everything that we've talked about up to this point should be reflected in the food log and will help someone with a little expertise inform you where you need to possibly start looking for dust bunnies.
Yeah.
And if you are not faithfully logging your food sources, food quantities, it can be very difficult to try and hunt down the fact that you are highly sensitive to soybean oil and you have 5 different products that all are soybean oil based. Stuff like that just happens. And sometimes there's nothing in the food blog, but a lot of times the food log will be a terrible state of inaccuracy or just not there. So please stick with that, especially if you start stalling. Get right back on that log. I understand you're living your life, you're kind of going lackadaisical, you're losing your 2 pounds a week. Great.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, you better get on that log in a big way, real hardcore. That's a big piece of advice. I wish more people came to me with at least a week's worth of food logs so that we can kind of see, all right, well, this isn't everything, but at least it's something, right?
Yeah. No, the one thing that I look for in the food log is what are they eating? How much are they eating? And also when are they eating it and how often? If you have a food log and everything's in there and when you ate it, really, some people, they don't even need to change what they're eating or how much they're eating. They just need to stop snacking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see in black and white in a log.
Okay, before we move on to our next topic, Karen, I realized we skipped over one that's pretty important to speak about.
What's that?
You and your women issues.
Forgot about those.
I know we did. That's a big one though, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me put on my science hat for a minute and just talk about this, because there's some science and then there's some other stuff.
That's true.
There are 4 mesocycles in the menstrual cycle. You've got the follicular phase and the luteal phase, and that is 4 1-week increments. You got the follicular stage where you got the estradiol going up and then coming down, and the luteal stage where you got progesterone going up and coming down.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Those are powerful hormones, and they have profound impact on your water retention.
Yes.
Water, not fat, water.
Very true.
Do not worry if you are a woman about the fact that some weeks you seem to lose and some weeks you seem to gain, or some weeks you plateau, and it's just kind of up, down, left, and right. Until you are 3 or 4 months in, that pattern will not emerge to you. But I promise you that there are 4 mesocycles in every month. And when you have enough data, you will figure out for your body how you're responding to that estradiol and that progesterone. And I guarantee you, my wife has this crazy thing. She only loses during one of those 4 weeks.
Yeah.
As far as weight loss goes, she's burning fat all 4 weeks, but there's a whoosh week. And it is directly tied to a cycle, and 1 week a month, whoosh, and it's profound, and it's exciting for her. She gets to see the results on the scale of the hard work, and it's also frustrating for her the other 3 weeks because she thinks she's stalled. But she's not. It's just water retention.
Yeah, there's I was just telling somebody in the group that there is 1 week where I don't pay any attention to the scale. I have 4 distinct weeks. 1 week where I lose a normal amount, 1 week where I plateau or I lose very little, 1 week where I may gain a little, and then 1 week where I can lose 8 pounds. Wow. It just... Yeah, it's incredible what the hormones can do. And I'm really not doing much different from week to week, except for maybe 1 week, chocolate mug cake or 2 might have been consumed.
Extra chocolate. Not peanut butter, though. Definitely not peanut butter.
No, not chocolate and peanut butter. Bad. I would never do that.
All right. So, Karen, if I'm a woman and I think I am stalled and it's been 10 days.
No,
what are you going to tell the woman who is 10 days stalled that sends you the help?
That a stall is 4 weeks. You need to look at it from month to month, especially if you've been doing this for more than three months. You don't, when you begin your ketogenic way of eating, you lose a lot of that excess inflammation in water. And so you're going to notice these fluctuations of your fluids every month. So try to get them to just hang in there for 1 month and see what happens.
Yep. That's been my experience. I've talked to a lot of women, and that's the pattern. I mean, you just see it.
Don't weigh yourself. Don't weigh yourself. There's a couple of weeks in the month. Just don't weigh yourself. If you want, you can do waist measurements because that's not where the bloating goes, and you'll see that weight is coming off. It's just not reflecting on the scale. The scale is pretty much meaningless.
Yeah.
50% of the time.
And that's a keto pro tip anyways, is if you're tracking your loss of fat on the scale, you are going to be disappointed a lot. It doesn't show up on the scale the way that it ought to. How many times have you seen folks who are like, well, I'm 3 sizes down in my pants, but I've only lost 6 pounds. You go, okay, who cares?
That's what's fantastic about the keto diet. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I try to get them to get excited about that because they're losing fat. They're not losing muscle. They're getting healthier. I was just telling the admins, the girls, we were talking about wedding dresses, and I'm like, I am pretty much exactly the same weight now that I was when I got married. I'm going to try on my wedding dress. And it was too big, way too big.
Oh, like that's
2-3 sizes too big.
Huh.
So weight isn't everything. It's just, gravity.
I couldn't agree more. And my favorite recommendation: go up to Amazon, get you one of those things. It's a fat caliper and tape measurement, and it's $5. So, they make it super cheap in China and send it to you. And it's a cloth tape that you put around you, and it's got a little contraption where it hooks in. You push a button and it sucks in, so you can get a nice consistent measurement out of it.
Okay.
And they're very handy. I love it. And that was how you can measure a bunch of spots really fast with it, because it's got that little hook and loop system where you just hook it together, push the button, and you get your measurement real fast. So you just choop, choop, choop. So you can do your thigh, do your belly button, do your hips, do your bicep or chest or whatever you're measuring. Boom, 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 and you're done. I track those as my own metrics much more so than my weight, because it's just it's kind of a silly thing to track weight. It doesn't. I mean, if you're really obese, it works better. But once you get inside of that 30 pounds, weight does not work very well inside of 30 pounds at all.
It's not working for my husband right now. He's seeing himself lose a pound a week, which for a man, is used to losing more. He's certainly not used to losing like 1/3 of what his wife is losing.
That's right.
It's affecting his self-esteem. But his belt size is a lot smaller. He's noticing that going down. So he's getting some displacement. We're going to have to go out and buy him all new shorts, because they're a sight to behold right now. They are barely hanging on.
That's right. It better be careful. It's really going to be a sight to behold.
Yay.
All right. Exercise and sleep. So I want to rant about exercise a little bit.
Yes.
One of my favorite stall busting life changes is you got to move. You cannot be sedentary. You're a human creature that was not designed to be sedentary. Mm-hmm. And you got to get out there and sweat. And my preferred modality for that is to lift heavy weights, especially if you're a woman. And I'll tell you why. Because especially if you're an older woman, lifting heavy weights does two things. Number one, it stabilizes your hormone axis by it triggers a bunch of weird stuff that makes your hormones kind of smooth out. But then it triggers a very important thing that causes your bone density to increase. So all your life, you've been told by old women that you need to drink milk so you don't get osteoporosis and brittle bones and fall down and break a hip when you're an old lady. Yeah. The most effective way to make your bones strong, put a heavier weight than your own body on your back and then squat down and stand back up. That will make your bones stronger than anything, any pill you could take, any milk you can drink. There's nothing you can do dietarily that will make your bones as strong as lifting heavy weights. So I strongly encourage you to do it. You can do it safely in the gym using machines that are designed to prevent you from injuring yourself in case you make a mistake. Mm-hmm. And it's very safe. It's very easy to put a load on your body, and it will make your bones nice and strong. And more importantly, it kind of starts that metabolism and gets everything going by smoothing out all those hormones. So definitely do that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, let's talk about sweating. The most effective cardio is zone 2 cardio. That's so let's say you and I are going out for a little jog around the neighborhood.
Okay.
And we don't have our heart rate monitors. The way that you can tell if you're in zone 2, if we can continue to talk to each other in our normal voices without panting, mm-hmm. we're in zone 2. As soon as you start to have to like pant a little bit, or you're taking real short breaths or having trouble maintaining a conversation, that is a problem. Another way you can test it is if you close your mouth and you can breathe through your nose, you're in zone 2 for the most part. Now, some of you have very voluminous noses, and that's not a great test. So, it's just a physiological thing. So, some people can. That's not a good test for some people, but for most people, that's actually what I do when if I go out for a run and I try and figure it out. I can just shut my mouth. And if I can breathe through my nose and I'm not like, choking on myself, then I know that I'm in zone 2. It is a much slower exercise than you would possibly imagine. If you are running 14-minute miles, that might be a little bit too fast. You might have to slow down. It's somewhere between a brisk walk and a shuffle for most folks. It really is. I mean, that's what it is. So that's the most effective weight loss cardio zone. So here's the recommendation. Let's say you're 50 pounds overweight. Get you some nice shoes. You want to go ahead and invest in big springy shoes. They don't have to be super expensive Brooks. If you're a guy, Brooks Beast, I think the women's are called Adrenalines, maybe. Yeah. Those are awesome shoes. They're $140, but they're awesome. And they're, motion control and all the stuff that you want, because if you're overweight, you want to make sure those ankles are stable and straight. And the cushioning is the most important thing. Try and find somewhere to walk that's not asphalt if you can. A lot of times, if you go to these tracks that are at the schools, they're a different kind of asphalt than street asphalt. It's softer.
They're springy.
That's exactly what you're looking for. Something that's got a little bit of give to a little springy. And most of those tracks are going to be made out of something that's a little bit springier. Mm-hmm. Walking on the sidewalk is terrible. Concrete is 7 times harder than asphalt. If you're walking on the sidewalk because that's the only choice you have, okay. But if you can get out on the street and walk in the street, even though there's a sidewalk there, try and do so. Like in my neighborhood, there are streets that have sidewalks, and I ignore them and I stay on the asphalt anyways. So I definitely encourage all of those things, but see if you can trail walk, see if you can find that soft asphalt at a local school. Anything like that is going to be preferable to walking on hard concrete sidewalks. And you want to get out there for at least 20 minutes doing that brisk walk where you can breathe through your nose, where you can carry on a conversation without panting. As soon as you feel yourself start to pant, your tongue's hanging out of your mouth and you're just slow down. Just go to a regular walk. Let that heart rate come down a little bit and then carry on. And you just cycle back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that will work very good for you. Now, if you're a little bit fitter, if you've got a little bit more metabolic capacity, the absolute best way to burn fat is high intensity interval training, the HIIT training, Tabata training. And this is real simple. You wind sprint up and down your driveway. That's all you got to do. It's very easy to do. You slap on your sneakers and you sprint to your mailbox, and then you walk back, and then you sprint to your mailbox, and you can be done with your workout in 12 minutes.
Yeah.
You just hammer on that. And what you're looking for is a ratio of 3-to-1 on sprint versus cool down. So if you sprint for 15, you want 45 of cool down. Sprint for 15, cool. They sell these cool little belt clip timers that are Tabata things. I have this really neat one. And what it does is it chirps, and it has 2 cycles. So I have it set to chirp at 12 seconds. And then it gives me 40 seconds of downtime, and then it chirps again. So what I do is, instead of just sprinting up and down my driveway like a madman, I actually will start taking off on the road. I'll sprint from one mailbox. I'll just run down the road, sprint for 10 seconds. My little chirp will go off. Then I walk, and I catch my breath. I wake back up, and then it chirps again, and off I go again. Boom, 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 boom. So it does all that for you. There's some apps on the iPhone that do that for you. You can set your little watch or whatever. You just count in your head, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to do to come up with that. A lot of good stuff on the internet. I'm not the expert on that. You can do all the research you want to. It's called Tabata, or HIIT, high intensity interval training. And it really does come down to wind sprints. They have a bunch of other stuff you can do, prowler pulls. And if you have access to CrossFit gyms, they tire flips and sledgehammer spins and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is you go all out, hold nothing back, wheeze like a maniac, catch your breath, and do it again. and that works really well. And it's good for strength building, and it's good for weight loss.
Yeah.
Now, Karen, you and I have talked about some of the exercise stuff that you're doing. And why don't you share what you've been up to?
Well, we're talking about stalls, and my second month eating keto, things started to really slow down. Mm-hmm. And so I started asking you, well, what should I do? Can I do this? Can I do that? And most of the time it was no. But I found that there was an indoor pool just up the road from me, and they did aquafit. And I started doing that. And, I'm older and I have insulin resistance, and my weight does not it likes to stay the same. Mm-hmm. At that state. But exercise really worked for me. I had slowed down in March, and then I started going to aquafit twice a week, and then doing the walking the other days. And I lost more than twice the amount of weight in April than I did in March. And you're talking about the 3-to-1 ratios with your sprinting. We did that in the pool.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a section where it was like just do your basic cardio stuff, and then there was an arm part, and a core part where you're on your back, lifting up your legs and everything. And then there was the dreaded high intensity stuff where you'd have to just go as hard as you could, and then stop and rest, and then go as hard as you could. It was torture, but it really works.
It really does. And let me throw out to you couples who are doing keto. Aquafit will kick your booty. I don't care how good you are. There's a fascinating thing about water that it adapts to your level of fitness. So I don't care if you could go out and run a marathon like Larissa. You get into a pool and you start doing those exercises, it will take you to failure. It will.
It's true. It's very true. I think that was my instructor's goal, is that she was always looking at me out of, the dozen women in the pool. It's like, okay, we're done. when Karen's about to die. And now it's the same sort of thing. Now I do Aqua Zumba. It's a lot of fun, but you get out of it what you put into it, because you're all working in the water. And I know I'm doing well, and the instructor, she's looking at me and she's doing like the closed lip nod, like, all right, good job.
That's fantastic. Well, good job out of you.
Yeah.
All right. So exercise is a great stall buster. Karen is giving you a little peek behind the curtain. I got that PM from a little lady named Karen who goes, I'm stalled. What do I do?
It's slowing down. What can I do for exercise? I saw somebody posting about this. Can I try that? And I kept on getting the no. You're going to hurt yourself. Calm down.
Yes. And that is a real, I want to put a real fine point on that. If you're obese and you know who you are, be careful with yourself. Your knees. Those joints. Yeah, protect those joints. You know what would be a terrible thing is for you to mess up your knees and hips on your journey to being an ideal weight.
Yeah.
That would suck. To go, I'm finally 160 pounds,
but I can't move.
And now I have arthritis in my hips, and my knees hurt if I walk more than a quarter mile, and you can't get out there and enjoy the sunshine, all because you decided to do couch to 5K at 300 pounds. Yeah, don't do that. Don't be that person.
I was told I wasn't allowed to do that.
Correct. Not yet.
Not yet. Soon. Eventually, I'll get there.
It's coming.
More aquafit, and picking heavy things up and putting them back down again. And then...
Exactly. Okay, so let's talk about sleep. Karen, why don't you talk about why sleep is on this list? Because what does sleep have to do with stalls? Because isn't that the laziest thing in the world you could do?
Yeah, you know what? I explained to Ben, I think one of our first conversations, he said, protect your sleep. And I got this PM and I'm like, dude, you are not kidding. I don't sleep. I won't lose an ounce. It doesn't matter if I lived on, water and green tea the day before. The scale does not move. The fat won't come off, and it's all to do with my cortisol levels. If I don't sleep, my body won't let go of any fat.
Yeah.
No, I love my sleep. I get it as much as I can.
Good. So I think one of the problems that we see is, especially in the obese, we've got some sleep quality issues.
Yep.
You got apnea.
Mm-hmm.
You got the large caboose and just generally being uncomfortable lying down because your body is just not designed to be that big. So you run into all the weird stuff. You like side sleepers, people that can't sleep on their back. That apneas are it's kind of a catch-all term of a lot of stuff that goes wrong. But what it really comes down to is, if you're 260 pounds and you're lying on your side, your rib cage is getting squished. You're not breathing right. You're not getting the amount of oxygen you need. You're uncomfortable all the time. Your joints are achy. Your inflammation's up. But just so many things go wrong with sleep quality in the obese that we need to put a real good focus on this.
Yeah.
There are two things that I have that I recommend that will make a big difference in your sleep quality. Number one, if you're over 35 years old, you need to go ahead and take a look at supplementing melatonin.
Yeah.
Melatonin is one of the most powerful hormones in your body. We're talking about picograms is all it takes to knock you on your butt. And what happens is when you are a youngster, you are making a ton of this stuff. And by the time you're 35, it's fallen off by almost 90%. We've all heard the term sleeps like a baby. Well, guess what? How many old people do you know that get up at 4 a.m. because they can't sleep anymore and they're done sleeping? Mm-hmm. That is melatonin. So melatonin is also not bioavailable via the oral route. That means if you take a pill and swallow it, it don't work. You have to do sublingual. Basically what they do is they take it's usually like a maltitol or some other non-caloric sugar.
Yeah.
They put these tiny little amounts, 3 milligrams, into this little sugar pill, and you hold it under your tongue for 30-45 seconds, and it instantly dissolves and then gets absorbed by these big veiny mucus membranes that you have under your tongue. You've probably never looked under your tongue, but if you look, you have this massive vein in there. And then there's nothing between that, what's in your mouth and in that vein. So you can stick all sorts of weird medication under your tongue and it just goes into your blood, like just gets sucked right in. And that process is called sublingual. That's also how you have to take vitamin B12. If you try and swallow B12, it doesn't work. And it's the same with melatonin. So what you do with the melatonin, stick it under your tongue, 3 milligrams. More is not better. Listen to me. This is a powerful hormone. You start doing to the 10 milligrams, you actually find that instead of being a sleep aid, it becomes a sleep suppressant. And you will be up all night trying to figure out why you can't sleep. So don't get cute. Don't double down on it. More is not better. You do one of these things. So 3 milligrams. There are a number of brands that are out there. And I'm telling you, it'll make a big difference, especially if you're older. The older you are, the more profound melatonin will make, and it's perfectly safe to take every day. It's not habit forming at those levels. You don't have to worry about it being a problem, but it is a powerful hormone, and it's something you should talk to your doctor about. Don't just go, I'm just going to start doing this. It'll be great. I mean, you can, but I that's something if you're going to take it for the rest of your life, which a lot of doctors, my doctor, that's what he's told me is, hey, you're just on this for the rest of your life because your body stopped making it, and it's real good for you and does a lot of nice things. But, that's between you and your doctor, and I'm certainly no doctor. So, Karen, have you done any experimentation with any of these chemical sleep aids?
With the melatonin?
Yeah.
With me, I don't know if this is common with other women, but I have 2 days of the month where I cannot fall asleep for love or money. So the melatonin, I take my magnesium and my melatonin together before I go to bed, and that works.
Mm-hmm.
I take the sublingual one. That's about it. I find that if I start using the other things, I need to take them constantly. But the melatonin, I'm usually pretty good. I only need it a few days a week so far. It's because I'm so much younger than you.
And we also have the magnesium that you mentioned. That is another very powerful sleep aid for a lot of people.
It helps.
We've had folks complain. They go, man, I can't take this much magnesium. I'm dopey. I'm going to take an afternoon nap if I take this stuff at lunch. And
take it at night.
Take it at night. There you go. Use that as one more nickel in the jar towards sleep quality, and backload that stuff. There's a product called Calm. That's a magnesium product that is specifically, they claim right on the label, take this and it'll settle you down. That's the brand name. So one other thing I do want to mention is Benadryl. That's a diphenhydramine. It's 25 milligrams, a little pink pill. It's super cheap. You can buy 300 pills for $6 at Walgreens. I mean, it is all but free. And what it is it's just an antihistamine, but it has a little bit of a sedative property. Now, although it is not a habit-forming medication, you can take it every day. That is definitely something that you would want to use mostly for problems of not falling asleep, like in a short-term thing, like, hey, I haven't been getting good sleep. I need to make sure I get a few days of solid sleep here. That's how I use it. We have, these little pink pills, and it's like, all right, well, it's been a rough couple days. So, we're gonna hit the pink pills. Now, for some people, diphenhydramine can really cause a wacky drowsiness the next day. So the first time you take that, make sure you do that on a weekend so you don't go to work and people think you're a nutball. It has a strong hypnotic effect. It's poor man's what's those like Lunestra and what's the one that everybody
Ambien.
like? Ambien. That's the one where they order waffle makers and stuff.
Where'd I
get this waffle maker from?
I know myself. I would do some crazy things.
See, that's what I'm saying. So it is a hypnotic, but it is safe to take. And some people will say you can take it every day without any problems. That's between you and your doctor. But both of those things are over the counter, and it's perfectly safe for you to try and give it a shot. So I guess the Ben recommendation is daily melatonin if you're over 35, and as needed for 1 shot of Benadryl. Same thing with Benadryl and with all hypnotics. The correct dose is the correct amount, and too much will have the opposite effect. So if you take 1 Benadryl, you will have a nice, strong hypnotic effect that will act as a sedative. If you take 4 Benadryl, it will act as a stimulant, and you'll be up all night singing Beavis and Butthead songs.
Yeah, so, I'm very sensitive to Benadryl. I find it has just the opposite effect, even at the correct dosage.
Okay.
So I get wound right up. With the Benadryl and any other over-the-counter medications, if you are taking any other prescription medications, just ask your pharmacist if it's okay.
There you go. Cool.
But yeah, with me, I can't.
Oh, that's a bummer.
No, I'm a lot of fun though. A lot of fun on Benadryl.
Okay, so with that kind of talks about the sleep aids. Let's talk about the sleep quality. If you're someone that has a CPAP, use the daggum thing, would you? You went through all that trouble to get that machine. I don't know how many people I talk to. They're like, well, I have CPAP, but I don't like wearing jet fighter mask. Just do it. Because if you have an apnea that is profound enough that you had to go ask for help, do a sleep study, and get the little contraption, get it and use it. And if your mask doesn't fit, get it fitted. Figure out what you got to do. Spend the $60 to get a new mask if that's what you need. Make it work, because it will help you sleep. You will not lose the weight and undo the apnea if you get bad sleep because you're trying to save $60 because your mask doesn't fit your face right. Do what you need to do to get that going. Now, I was recently accused of being a spammer because I posted about blue blockers on the group, and everybody's like, "What? Why is he posting sunglasses?"
That's one of those sunglass things again. Darn it! These people are everywhere.
Okay, so there's an important component of sleep quality that I'm going to talk about, and I don't care if you guys think I'm a hippie nutball. Blue
nutball, but these work.
Blue light messes with your sleep quality. As Karen and I are recording this, it's actually kind of late at night.
Yeah.
And we're staring at a computer, sitting here doing whatever. That computer is blasting blue light right up your nose, and it's affecting your brain. It's suppressing your melatonin, and it's increasing your cortisol and holding it at a higher level than it should be, among 97 other things. So I have some recommendations for you. If you are someone who uses a computer at night, and most of you do, because I see you on Facebook yapping away until 11 o'clock at night, go out and get a program called Flux, F.LUX, and it's a little program that will change the color of your screen relative to sunset. So when the sun goes down, it changes your colors and makes everything an orange color. It takes the blue light out. It will help. If you want to go one step further, you can get the sunglasses that I posted. There's these UVEX safety sunglasses that are orange. They are, when I say orange, I'm talking about like traffic cone orange.
They're quite stylish.
Oh, they're sexy. And what they do is they completely block all blue frequencies. But the advantage is you can walk around your house with your regular lights, you can watch TV and everything, and you're filtering out that blue light. You are setting your body up for the most natural sleep cycle possible, even though you're living a semi-nocturnal life in this electronic world. We have a lot of fun making fun of Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a neurologist who is an absolute maniac when it comes to these things. But he's a neurosurgeon who is all about what your brain does, and your eyeballs are directly connected to your brain. You may not know that when that is all one component. Your eye and your brain are the same thing. Like, those are not different entities. And he knows a lot about this stuff. And, Dave Asprey has been talking about this for many years. All of our favorite biohacker folks are really getting into this. As someone who is a technology nerd myself, I have found a profound difference since doing this. I started off with the Flux program, which is freeware. You just put it on, it doesn't cost you anything. And you can dim the screen with it and change the colors. And then I started adding the orange glasses because it helped, because it made a difference. And I encourage you to do that. The best approach is to get off the electronics. Don't watch TV. All the usual stuff that you hear people talk about. Don't use your bed for anything other than sleeping. Like, don't sit there and fold laundry in your bed while you're watching TV at 10:30 at night before you go to bed. No, not acceptable. The bedroom is for sleeping. The bed is for sleeping. Don't use your bed as a shelf. Don't use it as a lounge chair. Make that room a dedicated purpose room, and you will find that all those little things are just little nickels in the jar towards your sleep quality, and anything you can do to improve it is good. So with that, Karen, do you have anything you want to add on sleep quality in general?
No, I don't. That's great, Ben.
All right. So we've talked about a few things. We've talked about inflammatory foods, specifically dairy, looking right at you, Mr. Cheese. We've talked about sneaky carbs and packaged foods.
Yes.
We have spoken at length about how important it is to measure things.
Again, yes, we did.
Yeah. You're sensitive. For those of you who have listened to all the podcasts, we are now 3 for 5 on saying measure. There's a reason for that. It's one of the most important and is the most commonly screwed up thing.
That's kind of our shtick.
That's right. So we talked a little bit about exercise and sleep, and it's something that I want to spend some more time on in upcoming podcasts, is to really start to dig into that exercise, what it looks like, how to get started, what it costs, how you can do stuff at home. I really want to get into that, but today's not the day for that.
Yeah.
So those are the main reasons that you stall. It usually comes down to one of those things. Now, let's talk about some of the things that aren't on this list. Medical problems.
Yeah.
Especially thyroid issues.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the number one. I went to the doctor, and this is what we found out is going to be some sort of thyroid-related, hormone-related issue. If you are hypothyroid, if you got Hashimoto's or Cushing's or some of these other things that, are along that thyroid axis, it can have a profound impact on your weight loss.
Very true.
Good news, easy to fix.
Yeah.
Happy little pill, one and done on the pill. It's not a big deal. Getting that pill dialed in is sometimes a little tricky, but once you're in and cooking, it's no big deal. We are not medical professionals. We can't diagnose this stuff over the internet. You can ask me for help, and I'm going to tell you all the things that I just spent the past hour doing. And at the end of it, I'm going to say, and you should go talk to your doctor about getting worked up. Have your blood levels looked at, have your hormones looked at, have the thyroid panel run, and let's see if there are reason to suspect a physiological problem that is interfering with weight loss. People are sick and dysfunctional when they are obese. That is an unfortunate reality, and one of the reasons why we're all here is because we don't want to be sick and tired.
That's right.
But it may expose malady that you weren't aware of, or it's always been there, and that's kind of how you got into this mess. We've talked to a lot of folks who are like, well, I gained 15 or 20 pounds every year for the past 10 years, and here we are.
Yep.
And then you find out, and by the way, my thyroid doesn't work. And as soon as I start taking this pill, all's well.
Yeah.
And now we have to clean up the mess, and that's a very common problem. But there are 100 other things that can cause weight loss challenges. So don't be surprised if you get referred to a doctor if you ask for help, and people are like, well, it's none of the things that it normally is. So let's talk to a doctor and get a workup and see what else it might be, because if it's not one of these things, a lot of times it is going to be something medical that needs a workup.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Karen, let's talk a little bit about our friend Scott and his awesome cookbook.
Keto everything.
That's right. And if you're stalled, don't. This is the episode where we say don't buy the cookbook and don't go to the website.
The alternate title.
That's right.
Keto everything except you.
That's right. This makes a great Christmas gift for you to give away to someone else. See what I did there, Karen?
Oh God. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. Just the scale's not moving. Give it to your sister.
Take it easy on the peanut butter cookies.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Karen. Well, thanks for going through this here.
My pleasure.
We tried really hard to keep this to an hour, but it's an interesting topic, and hopefully this long form style of discussion allows us to explore a little bit more into the corners of some of these topics.
Yes.
So I think it's okay to run this long, but definitely give us some feedback. If you're out there listening, you're going, man, I wish they would have just got to the point. It would be great to have some feedback on the length. So if you made it this far, thank you for listening, and let us know how we're doing, and give us some tune-ups on what you'd like to see done different. We can go longer, we can go shorter. Now that we're podcasts, especially, I think the video format is tough to just sit down and power through an hour and a half, one topic. But for podcasts, maybe it's no big deal. So let us know. You can drop me a PM or start a thread, whatever you want to do, and let me or Karen know. We certainly appreciate it on the Facebook groups. If you found us on iTunes and you're wondering who these two people are, Karen and I are part of the staff on a Facebook group called the Ketogenic Diet Open Discussion Group. And that's a group you can just get on Facebook and join. We've got two groups, our Keto Plus group, which is focused on the food and recipe, kind of recipe swapping, that sort of thing. And we have a technical side of the house. Between those two groups, we got about 19,000 members. So it's a pretty strong community. We've got a lot of folks that are out there listening. Come join the fun and let us know how your journey's going, and see if you can help a few folks and get a little help for the problems that you have. So with that, Karen, I'm going to read this ridiculous disclaimer because we have been talking about a lot of medical stuff today.
We have.
And, we are not medical people. So I'm just going to hit this disclaimer, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Karen, thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
No one in this podcast is a provider of healthcare, and our discussion is based on things we read on the internet. It's not our intent to render medical advice for your unique situation. Only you and your doctor can make decisions regarding your medical treatment, diagnosis, and especially the impact of prescription medication. Always check with your prescribing doctor on the compatibility of your medication before undertaking any change in nutritional approach or fasting protocol. Many medications are known to be incompatible with longer fasting without adjustment. Be safe and don't trust our word for it.